All right. Now, Ryan, what do we have on tap tonight? We have to go over the capital plan, correct?
Yeah, so if the committee is willing to work through the draft document I sent and potentially approve it tonight, it would be ready for a presentation on time on January 4th. So that's really the only item we have. I sent out a draft plan to everyone. I'd be happy to pop it up on my screen. I tried to capture everyone's thoughts and the deliberation, but if I missed something or you want to change something, of course, that's what this is about. So I'm getting some warnings. Am I coming in okay or am I coming in broken?
You're okay.
You're fine.
Okay, so the first part is just admin stuff. Okay, this is the first numbers here. So this would be based off of a projected operating budget, not necessarily the final budget, because I guarantee you our budget's going to be smaller, but this is just showing if we were to go with the financial policies of spending 6% on capital, and you take out the $280,000 in debt that we have in the operating budget right now, you'd be looking at spending around $307,000 in capital, pay-as-you-go capital. So pay-as-you-go, just as a reminder, is items we would use free cash for or other liquid assets, even borrowing, in order to fund the capital plan. Oops, this is just last year's spending. What the plan that you approved, and then it was adapted by me, and then the finance committee, and then of course it went through the COVID ringer, and then passed at special town meeting in the fall. This is the real part where you guys are taking over. So this comes directly from our previous meeting. So I guess I'll just highlight the recommendations and then we can talk about it.
Sure.
So this is saying that we're spending less than the 6% goal, which we talked about because of available finances. And then a high level summary is this committee is recommending that we don't overextend our free cash based off the current economy, which means spend less than the 6% target. That we fully fund the capital plan that you approved last meeting. Obviously that can change tonight too if you wanted to. Finding alternative funding sources, that's just a pretty boilerplate recommendation. And then the two big ones for the Board of Selectmen, you discussed using expiring operating debt to fund future capital projects like the fire truck and the ambulance, and that you would like the Board of Selectmen to consider prioritizing building a modest public safety complex and asking residents to support this funding with a debt exclusion override. I'll stop there.
I'm not a fan of the word modest, the modifier, just a public safety complex. I understand the reasoning behind it.
Okay. I actually hemmed and hawed with that word, so I'm impressed you picked it up right away.
Yeah, well, it's as you know, I'm a proponent of it, but I don't want to say an exorbitant public safety complex. I just simply think a public safety complex. And we can assume, and that's a bad word to use, but it will be modest. I don't know. I understand why it was put in there.
So any objection to removing it?
Anyone?
No objection.
All right. Any other recommendation changes or additions, subtractions?
No.
Nope.
All right. So the next part is the actual capital plan, right? The main function of the CIPC. Keeps jumping on me, sorry. So this is just laying out what we discussed last time. So I'll call those up. These would be added to the plan once I combine all the documents. That one and then this one. Okay, share my screen again. Okay, so this one is what we're calling annual expenditures. So we talked about this one quite a bit last time. So moving the excavator request from 22 to 23 was a consensus vote. The funding a study for the septic system and pushing the septic system replacement was a consensus vote. Unfortunately, removing the additional road repair money, we keep trying to get that in there, but fiscal situation isn't really allowing it. Keeping the mitigation system for employee safety, funding a small purchase for the cemetery department, the trimmer, funding the firefighter turnout gear, and the firefighter utility pickup truck in FY 22, moving the portable radios to 23, but targeting that heavily with a grant, which I think we can be successful in. And then funding a cyclical replacement of the cruiser, but lowering the cost based off of an assumed trade-in value. Then we removed the document management system because we were successful in getting a community compact grant. So it'd be a total recommendation of $138,000 for FY 22 capital.
Looks good.
Question I have, we talked about $1,500 for the septic system. If we then
Chuck, I can't hear you. I don't know if other people can.
No,
I can't, no. You may have to call in. Do we have a call in?
He's muted right now.
Yeah,
There we go.
I'm just seeing.
Oh, much
there
better.
you go.
Oh. If we have the septic system looked at and it fails, does that mean we're gonna have to get it fixed sooner than later?
Yes.
Could we be potentially opening a can of worms?
Yes.
The answer is yeah. The short answer is yes, by code.
Yep.
But we also don't want to ignore something that's an issue.
And there are emergency funds that potentially could be available for that.
Okay,
And that's what really your stabilization fund is for. So there is ways to pay for that if it is an emergency. But based off of Travis's layman assessment, he believes that it needs to be pumped and addressed in the future. So I'm comfortable, famous last words, but that it won't open as big a can of worms as may be. But if it's failing, it's failing. I mean,
okay.
And Ryan,
All right,
I'm a septic system inspector, so we can talk about that outside of this forum.
okay. So then the other items in here are the new requests that were added and some modifications that are in yellow and green, just to show the future years. And one thing to note for next year is by moving the excavator, we're looking at approximately 300,000 in pay-as-you-go capital if you include additional road money, which should be, as long as revenues aren't as bad as they were this year, fairly doable. So you're setting up a couple years here by doing the plan this way, which is good. Okay, and then the other part of this report would be the multi-year alternative funding sources. So this is just important to see, so the public can see how much is being invested into the town, not necessarily through town meeting vote, but through the through careful planning, grants, and other efforts from many different boards. 1.4 million will be invested in the town next year.
Right.
When they do the bridge. This also includes Chapter 90 and some of the green community stuff we worked on, and then over 7 million in FY 23 when the town center project kicks off. So good news. A lot of people see the different projects and they wonder why it wasn't voted on at town meeting. This just helps answer those questions.
Is Main Street still supposed to go for 23? Is that what it's slated for?
Calendar year 22, fiscal year 23.
Oh, so coming up quick. Okay.
Not this summer, but the next summer.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, that's good. Really good news. Okay, so that would be that section of the capital plan. I'll go back to the document. Okay, so these are just placeholders, these blank pages for that document you just saw. All right, so then the next section is the department requests. So this is just additional information about, for those who really want to get into the details with the departments, just added some of the discussion points and information presented to you by the departments. So just helpful for people who want to dive deeper. I know that the finance committee for sure looks at this information, and a lot of members of the public are interested as well. Okay, so next is the projected spending summary. So this is important because it lays the foundation for the FY 2022 budget. Again, that's our projected operating budget, this 9.7, almost $9.8 million. That's definitely going to come down. I know that for sure. I have almost all the budget requests so far, except for the schools. The 587 is the target capital, or 6%, comes from Department of Revenue best practices. Again, 280,000 is the projected debt. And then this plan proposes 138 in spending. That should be 138.8. I'll make that correction, which means we have a deficit from target, which can be explained by the current economy. Not surprising. I don't think many people will be hitting their capital targets this year. And then we talked about available resources. So we have 312,000 certified free cash, an operating budget use of 100,000, a reserve for the following year of 100,000, so that we can continue to fund the operating budget. And then 138,000 from this proposed capital plan creates a deficit from the target of about 26,000. Any questions on that, or any changes? Is it confusing?
No, it's not confusing.
Some good news, like I'm supposed to do. I've been digging around to try and bring that deficit lower without missing our targets. I think we might have found some grant monies we can use, and maybe a little bit of the Holden Hospital account as well. So we should be able to knock some of that deficit off, which will be good. I'll make that part of my budget recommendation after you guys make yours to the Board of Selectmen. Okay, so this is the part where really looking for you to make sure that I'm articulating your conversation correctly. These are your additional recommendations. So this year, the Board of Selectmen asked you to consider two pretty significant issues for the town. One, expiring operating budget debt. This states that the town borrowed a significant amount of money in 2013, that this was paid for annually in the operating budget through debt payments of more than 165,000. So this 10-year borrow ends in 2023, meaning you have three options. Absorb the cost into the operating budget. You have more than three options, but three main options. Absorb the cost to help the structural budget deficit. Use the funds for something else like road repair, municipal building repair, construction, or capital costs, or reduce the size of the operating budget, which is always an option. This would lower taxes, which is an attractive option. It would also reduce services and not solve the budget problem. So definitely an option to consider because it impacts residents. And then I tried to articulate as cleanly as possible the municipal building issue based off some of our conversation. And I added some additional detail. So fire and ambulance, the fact that we're renting a property that some of Bill's conversation about how we have to customize our trucks. Okay, spending money for renting space, and that we still need to repair a lot of stuff. So invest a lot of money in the roof and other parts of the building. The police located in the Slade building, fact that it's too small, which some people will disagree with, but it is definitely not set up right if it's not too small, because we need to transport people to Rutland in order to, or other neighboring towns in order to properly detain them. We're not compliant with current safety laws because we're bringing detainees past the public and employees. And, you know, that's about as kind as that write-up could be without being extraneous.
True.
So the senior center is definitely functional for hosting an activity, but some of the true concerns with the senior center is there's only one bathroom, which causes some, in my opinion, some dignity problems, and definitely an ability for, you know, sometimes two people have to go to the bathroom at once. So it's just not an ideal setup for our senior population, and it doesn't allow them some privacy and health concerns. And also, we cannot counsel people properly with our Shine program or any of the other senior programs because there's just no private space. So although the senior center is great and they've done a great job, it does need, I'll use the word I used before, some modest upgrades in order for it to be really fully functional, even at its current use level. So whether you agree or not that how big the space they need more than they have now is basically the point of that. Okay, the town offices, I got into the finance team
Can
side.
I back you up just a sec?
Sure.
So when I was on the senior center building committee, we did massive demographics to show that the population of our town, the highest growing population of our town is the seniors. And we're certainly not meeting the need for the seniors through our senior center, and they are quite frankly going to be the highest growing population. I want to add that in there, that the current facilities don't meet need and the future facilities cannot possibly meet need. I don't know if that's something you want to add to it or not.
I'll type this with better prose, I promise.
Yeah, and definitely check with the Claudia to make sure you get the quotation right for fastest growing population, but we did document that through Massachusetts Regional Planning Committee.
That's true of all of Massachusetts, but definitely in rural parts of the state like ours. So not surprised at all. Okay, the town offices, which I expect will get the least amount of sympathy. The town office space, we don't have walls, right? So there's no ability to have any type of meeting that deserves any privacy, whether that be union negotiations or HR functions. I didn't put this in there anecdotally, but I do often host meetings by walking around the building so that not everyone can hear what we're talking about, which, you know, would be great if we were in the West Wing, but it is not great for all residents. Not all residents can do it. There's also no formal meeting space. A lot of the times when we're meeting, and I know many of you have seen this, we'll be having a staff meeting and the public will be coming in and out and walking through. And it's not a huge concern, but it's definitely difficult to hold any type of meeting with any type of efficiency in a space that's completely public. And then we've tried to detail your conversation about the public library basement. So having these offices in there makes them ineligible for grants, and it also prevents them from expanding their services in the library to include having a larger children's section or any of the other parts of their 5-year plan that they wanted to move into the basement area. I'm sorry, I got a little bit into the library there. The important consideration for you is that the vault would need to be moved if you were to move the town offices out of the library, which would probably be the most expensive part of that renovation.
Mhm.
Okay, the library is barely, saying it's ADA compliant would be wrong. It's not. It has been updated to make sure that we can accommodate some of our disabled residents, but it's not fully functional as a library because it doesn't address that population very well. The building structure is something that we hesitate to evaluate because we would have to make major structural changes to it. And I know the library trustees want to get into this, but they can't do it while we're being occupied, because if they were to find any changes or necessary changes, they can't adequately search for grant funding that's available to a lot of libraries. The state is pretty generous with libraries in general because they want to keep them open. So, okay, so that's kind of laying out the issues as we discussed them and added a little bit of detail. So the recommendations would be as follows. So this language is important that I get right. So looking for your comment, I'll do each one. The CIPC recommends the Board of Selectmen that the expiring 2013 debt be dedicated to future large-scale capital projects like borrowing for a new fire truck or ambulance. Everyone good with that?
Yes.
Next recommendation would be that the Board of Selectmen should prioritize asking residents to support the construction of a public safety complex.
Thank you.
4 to 8 million was our discussion. I don't have to include dollar amounts, but they are helpful on existing land.
I take the dollar amounts out personally. Just my opinion.
Okay.
Anyone?
No, you're probably right, because that kind of handicaps the whole project. Because someone will see the 4 million and say, oh, it's only, they look at their spending over what they were allotted. So, or something. Just, I would agree, take it out.
Maybe we leave modest here. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think just public safety complex. This is a recommendation to the board.
Yeah.
So,
Let them figure out the money.
yeah.
It's a strong recommendation.
Okay, so it further states,
Can we back up to that? Can we, I know I'm not one for enhancing, but do we want to say strongly recommends that the Board of Selectmen prioritize? Or is that pushing it? We recommend or we don't,
I would think we're just recommending it because, they asked us what our recommendation is. So
Okay.
I think we're recommending. This was what we recommend we do.
Okay.
okay, and then I added some bullets based off of your conversation on the reasoning why. So I'll highlight them here. Public surveys support addressing Hubbardston's public safety needs, the wasting of resources by hosting in leased buildings for sure. Moving the police department, this was kind of your initial discussion, allows for the combination of town offices and would also allow for a senior center expansion down the road. Moving the offices out of the library allows trustees to apply for grants. Current estimates indicate that a modest, I keep using that word, must be couching myself, that a building with a 40-year interest loan would cost the average household $90 to $180 annually. That can certainly be taken out if you don't think that if we should be using those numbers.
We should not. So no, don't do it until we discuss it, but we're making a recommendation and I think that's pushing our recommendation at this point. We're recommending based on a need. And I think if we do anythings, that we're going to box ourselves in and it's just not going to float with the general public. What do you all think?
I agree. I think at this stage of the game, we probably should leave it kind of general like that. We can leave like 40-year low interest loan, but take out the dollar amount per house.
Yeah. Come on, guys, we need more than just Mike and I to be talking about this.
I think the first question people were going to ask is how much? What's it gonna cost me?
But I think
Yeah.
that's a better question for the select board to answer.
Okay,
Once they commit to this, or even a building committee. But I think at this stage of the game with the capital planning committee, we're recommending this is the process they take, but I don't think at this point we should be ready to dive into number, like that kind of number for how much it would cost. We don't have a, any kind of cost estimate other than, I mean, certainly we trust Bill's, he does this for a living, but we don't have an official
No.
cost estimate or anything like that. So, yeah,
Bill
I agree
Murray
with
said
Bill.
4
I think
million.
we leave it generalized like this.
okay, that's fine.
Okay, so the town will be eligible for a 40-year low-interest building loan. Is that?
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
want
no,
to say that's USDA, or do you want to identify any of that? Or want to leave it open?
Sounds
I
good.
think it gives it more weight. I got to figure out the hyphenating there. I'm not a grammar king, but I'll figure that out.
And number 8,
Okay, next one, creating a public.
I have a number
Creating a
8.
public. Okay. Creating a
Um,
public safety complex would allow police, fire, and ambulance to meet regulation and code.
Yep.
Creating a public safety complex would properly house, I like this point that you guys made. It's because I'm a municipal nerd. Creating a public safety complex would properly house capital equipment like vehicles, extending their life and limiting their impact on the capital plan. I like that one.
And developing a public safety complex will increase the town's ISO rating, which will impact individual homeowner insurance policies, or something maybe better stated than what I said. But if we build a public safety complex where we're not driving from one facility to the other to get to the fire truck to respond to a fire, it will lower our ISO rating, which will lower the cost of insurance for each person in town.
Right. So maybe a public safety complex will improve our ISO rating, which would
I would leave it at that. Who knows, the different insurance companies can make the decisions differently, and I think if we just leave it at that, just like we're not putting in anything out specific about.
Well, I'm
Or-
trying to
yeah, or-
prove that there's a personal benefit.
yeah. So building a public safety complex would improve our ISO rating, which may
Okay,
which may lower individual homeowners insurances.
okay,
Policy costs.
Yes. Because I think it was shortly after we moved in, which is around 04, the town's ISO rating went the wrong way, and we did get a bump in homeowners. It went up.
Yeah.
With that, I don't remember for what, but it went up.
It's when we split the fire department.
That sounds good, Ryan.
Okay, any other additions? All right, seeing none.
I don't think so.
So then the CIPC further recommends that the Board of Selectmen use the town of land on Gardner Road to limit construction costs. It further recommends that the town attempt to sell the current fire station or repurpose the land to repurpose the land. I'm going to take that out. How do we feel
That's
about
good.
the way I worded those comments?
Yeah, I can't imagine who would want to buy the existing fire station with sewer, water, and all the other kind of things going on, but I don't see why we can't leave that in.
Yeah.
But further recommends use of town-owned land. And once implemented, the town attempt to sell? Or is that just being picky?
Further recommends that the town attempt to sell current fire station or repurpose the land following construction of a public safety building.
Thank you.
Nothing more riveting than watching people type.
Well done.
Okay, so that would be your plan.
And I move that we accept the capital improvement plan for FY 22 to 26 as amended on today's date.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Murray, aye.
Aye.
Chuck
Michael,
Reed,
aye. Chuck, yeah, aye. All right, unanimous. Motion passes.
Okay, so last year, we invited your chairman, Michael, to present this plan to the Board of Selectmen. If more than he wants to go, then we would need to post a meeting. So what are people's feelings on presenting this to the Board of Selectmen? How that will look this year.
Mike, that's all you.
All right. I mean, if everybody else wants it, I'll be happy to give it up, but otherwise I'm okay doing that.
That's fine. Do you need moral support?
No, I'm all right. I mean, unless you want to come, I've known more the merrier. Ryan, is the Board of Selectmen meeting through Zoom still, or are they in person?
Yeah, there's no in-person meetings right now at all. So
Okay.
I think I'd like to attend that if I can. I have a lot of conflicts in my schedule, but if I can, I'd like to attend. I'll be quiet, Mike, I promise.
No, Bill, you can chime in anytime you want.
and it's totally fine. I will post the meeting for you, just in case you all want to attend. If you don't attend, that's not hurting anybody. So,
yep,
we'll post the meeting just to make sure. They might ask questions, so it wouldn't be terrible to have you there. So
No, I think the more backup we have, the better, especially when it comes to the building.
Yeah.
okay, so Michael, I can set a time to meet with you briefly just to go over the logistics of presenting it on Zoom. I mean, I'll
Sure.
do a lot of the driving for you. We can just go over it briefly. And I think that's it.
Okay.
move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right.
Bishop.
All in favor of adjourning? Yes.
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 Murray, yes.